The S14 has a major issue, and that is the cooling on it. So the car runs at about 185 degrees and it gets up to 200 sometimes after about 1 or 2 laps. It's an issue and we need to fix it because SRs like to pull timing and they don't run good when they start to get hot. Right now we have an ISR fan shroud on there. The ISR fans are not good, but the shroud's amazing. So what we're going to be doing is swapping out the ISR fans for some spal fans. Now I'm hoping I can get the shroud out without having to disconnect the upper radiator hose, because if I have to disconnect the upper radiator hose, I have to drain the rad and obviously bleed the entire system. I don't want to go through that process again. We're gonna obviously redo our wiring and see if I can get the shroud out without having to drop the upper rad hose. That was much easier than I expected. I thought that was going to be hard. I thought I would have to take off the upper rad hose, but I didn't. Came right out. Here's our ISR shroud and the ISR fans. We cut the wiring because I am going to redo the wiring. Probably go to a higher gauge. I actually forget what gauge I'm running. I believe it might be 12 AWG, or what is that? American wire gauge? I honestly forget what AWG stands for, but it might be 12 gauge wire. Okay, so here is the spal fan. The cool thing I like about this is check out this connector right here. On the left, you have the ISR fan. On the right, you have the spal fan. Off bat, you can already see the spal fan is bigger. Look how much area these take up being straight versus these being curved. I feel like they cover more area. And then we need to drill holes actually for the spal fans because they're not going to use the same mounting points. They do clear and fit on the shroud, but they use different mounting points for the holes. I'm going to pick back up tomorrow. We'll start drilling the holes. I also have the 50mm spacers we have to install, so we'll also do that tomorrow. We got to grab some wiring stuff. Wiring we'll do on Saturday. Today is Thursday, and we're gonna get all this done hopefully by the end of this weekend, and then we'll obviously do a test run to make sure the fans are cooling really good. This is how the fans are currently sitting. I'll give you guys some B-roll so you can see how they actually look. I've been trying to get a different exhaust note, and I'm going to do so by changing up the test pipe. So the test pipe, it spans from a 3-inch to a 4-inch down to a 3-inch. So it expands and decreases, and I'm going to change that to try and get a different exhaust note. We're going to do 3-inch straight, so we need to take the test pipe off, take it to our welder. Then we're going to do some of the front fitment wheel spacer stuff. Our GK Tech arms did arrive today. We'll put those on in the next video with the alignment and all that stuff so the bumper can go back on. That's our test pipe, and you can see you have a 3-inch exhaust, and then it widens to 4 inches, and then back down to 3. Now, while the car is in the air, we're going to install our new spacers. These are 50mm spacers. Currently, we have 1.5 inches. These are 2. The fitment's pretty good now. There's the fitment. Can you kind of see it? I'm gonna take my spal fans now and install them on the shroud real fast. My camera is on 1 bar battery, so all 8 bolts are mounted. Right now what I have to do is basically I'm gonna redo all the wiring for the fans. We have 12 gauge. Yeah, we have 12 gauge wire for the fans right now. 12 gauge is typically rated for around 20 amps, and these fans pull about 25. So I'm gonna do a 30 amp fuse and 10 gauge wire because 10 gauge is rated for 30 amps. I know we got this panel right here with these giant 40 amp rated switches. That way we don't have to run a relay. Usually a switch like the ones right there are rated for like, I don't know, 3 amps. So you cannot run a load directly off the switch. These are heavy duty, so I'm able to run the load directly off of the switch. And that's why I don't have any relays. It's just a switch, and inline fuses are right there. I'm gonna be taking off the panel and all of the wiring, which means we have to remove the front fender, this panel. That's about it. It's pretty simple. I have aero now, so I also have to remove the side skirt. Annoying, but this had to come off anyways because when our test pipe is done getting refitted, redesigned, it'll be a lot easier if I could just jack it up from the side. I can't jack the car up currently with side skirts because it blocks off where I jack up the car. So this is good. It's good. Okay, so the fender's off. Here's the wiring for the fans. All right. One day I will have plates welded onto the car. I will have grommets. It will be proper. Right now I got a lot of painter's tape and duct tape. Relax. I know what you're thinking. Calm down. Okay, that wasn't actually that bad. It wasn't that bad. The entire circuit for the fans is out of the car, including our panel, which I don't think I'm gonna run. I was just sitting in the car for a minute, just brainstorming. Speaking of, there is so much I want to do to this car to just refine it and make it so much better. And I might use a switch off the panel. We are here. I am dropping off the exhaust to get welded. This is just real quick because it's early in the morning on Saturday, but next time you see it, it'll look completely different. Exhaust piping's dropped off to Terry. I'm gonna put his Instagram on the screen, shout him out, because he does some really good work. He showed me some of his work. He was recommended from one of my friends. Oh, lights green. Headed back to the shop now, and we got a lot more to do. I've made progress with the wiring, not anything crazy. Got a harness right here, harness over here, relays. Obviously, once it's finished, I'm gonna go through and break it down with you guys and explain how I did everything. Right now, I actually need to mount the shroud back into the radiator, into the bay. Once that's mounted up, we're gonna do our 2 final harnesses, which are gonna be the 2 powers going to the fans. Actually, I lied. We're gonna do 1 more harness, and that'll be the ground for the fans, which I'm gonna redo and raise it up to 10 gauge instead of 12. I know how that makes no sense. Raise it up to 10, that's a lower number, but the lower the number, the thicker the wire, so 10 is thicker than 12. That is so much easier than having to drain the entire radiator, bleed the system. Throwback to when I had to do that when I installed the actual shroud, because we had the Ultima fans, and the Ultima fans do not just pull straight out. You had to disconnect the rad hose, drain the radiator, bleed it when you were done. We're gonna cut back into some time lapse, and we're gonna finish off the last 2 harnesses. And then obviously I'm gonna show you guys the ground harness once that's done. The power harness, everything else with the system, explain it all in detail, how I wired it up, how I came up with it, what I did. We have an exhaust piece that is waiting to get done. Once that's done, we'll throw it back on and we can do some cooling testing with the car to see how cool it runs. Alright, it's the next day. I was up till like 4 a.m. I just finished all the wiring for the car. I am so exhausted. Luna's trying to approve the wiring. If you can clear me for testing, that'd be great, Luna. The wires aren't on the floor, so I don't know what she's doing, but I'm gonna show you all the details, so let's go. Starting in the engine bay, here is the harness. You guys can see it comes over. There's a connector right there, and there's a connector right here. Now those are female disconnects, 12 gauge, fully insulated. My ends for the harnesses are electrical taped together because I did not have the heat shrink with the glue. I'll throw a picture up on the screen. This is our ground that we created. We got rid of the old ground, which was 2 12 gauge wires, and we did 2 10 gauge, coming around to where we had it grounded before on the hood latch. These are the 2 powers. They come around out of this hole and they ride along the fender frame rail, I guess you would call it. I don't even know, like the fender, like the rail reinforcement. Rides up through here, goes into the cabin. Cabin is not fully secured yet because I want to show you guys the routing. Getting in and out of the car a little bit easier if we have people that are sitting in the car to deal and test out things. Like I've had friends in the car sit before anyone else is driving the car. I don't have to worry about being like, hey, don't kick that panel. Which, speaking of, this fuse right here, this little circuit breaker, we're gonna be doing some type of protective shielding, maybe relocating it, maybe a different design. But I just want to make this car more easy to get in and out of and not have issues. Getting rid of that switch panel, it was cool, it worked, but you know, it's ease of access. I wired it to this switch panel. So we have a 3 amp fuse, which basically protects all of these switches. The switches don't do anything but activate the relays. So it's basically power in and out of like a coil to create the magnetic field to close the switch on the relay. That's why you don't need such a high fuse for all the switches. This is already protected to a fuse on the fuse and relay panel, which if If you guys want to see all the wiring for this car, I'll make a playlist and put it at the top of the screen. But this switch right here controls our fans, which we're going to do a test run in a second here. But that wire goes down, comes around, and adds into this harness, and that's what goes to the relays and stuff. Coming back to the trunk, I think they pull 25 amps, and it tells you to run a 30 amp fuse. We did wire in these inline fuses. These wires are 12 gauge, but it's rated for 30 amps. So we have two 30 amp fuses inside of these cases.
Is the explosion.
All the zip ties cut on the inside. I need to figure this out. We will. Just got to figure out a way to mount that. The wire behind here, you can't really see it because it is tucked, which is nice. Trunk looks decent. There's our relay assembly. There are inline fuses. I'm going to throw the headlights and the fender back on real quick. Okay, so that's installed. So now that the fender and stuff is back on, we're going to test the fans out. I want to see if you guys can hear the relay clicks. Of course, my camera battery is dying again. I think my charger is going bad. If you are fairly new, you might not know about Team Vandal, but Team Vandal is what this channel used to be called. It was my old brand, and Vandal stands for Vibes All Night Long. Don't worry, I'm still gonna be making decals for Vandal and Vandal related decals, but the whole brand name has changed. I don't know if you guys have noticed in the last videos in the descriptions, but the new brand is Box Break Racing, and here's a decal that we're gonna be putting on the car before our next drift event. I really like this color. It was supposed to be a little bit brighter, but I like how it's not highlighter and it's kind of like that regular green, like a lime green. I really dig it. So this is gonna go on the car. If you don't know what Box Break Racing is or what it stands for, it basically means to break your limit. So if you ever heard the saying, think outside of the box, instead of thinking outside of the box, we're living outside of the box, and that's kind of the whole reasoning behind Box Break. If you guys wanna see more, please go in the description, click on the site link, and check out the site. I spent a lot of time making it. It's still not done, but there's a bunch of cool stuff on there. You can read up about Box Break, see some of the decals. We're gonna have a ton of decals, a ton of cool things for sale soon. I'm still working on that. For now, let's get this installed. Box Break, redefine your limit. Our test pipe is back. Exhaust is installed, side skirt's back on, and now it's time for a test drive. Car's acting a little bit funny. Right now, I'm just gonna go through and check everything. The next step is to get this to the shop, and that's when we'll start doing our prep. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.